Welcome. You're listening to The Aligned Self, Conversations in Creating a Conscious and Abundant Life. This is Daniel Denovi. I'll be your guide and host. Let's see just where we can take this. Hello, friend, and welcome back to the conversation. You're listening to part 2 of a 3-part episode on raising your vibration. I started out with a dozen ways to raise your vibration, and frankly, things kept popping in my head to talk about, so I went on a little bit longer. I ended up with about 19 or 20. And so in this episode, I'm picking up on number 6. I left off on number 5 in episode 1. If you haven't yet listened to episode 1, I suggest you go back there and listen to that first. That way, you'll have a greater sense of continuity as you listen to all the different steps to raise your vibration. So without further delay, here's number 6. Now, I think we're on number 6. Why don't we talk about music? Music hath charms to soothe the savage breast, or the savage beast, according to Shakespeare. Now, I have a mindset that's oriented towards music. When I was younger, I was in the band. I played trombone. I ended up being rather good, and I toured Europe. So I have a lot of passionate, proud memories of music and knowing how playing music shifts my emotional state. And also, because I have a foundation in music, I also have an appreciation for a variety of genres. But growing up, my favorite band was Earth, Wind & Fire. And you may not know anything about them, depending on where you are in your timeline of life. But Earth, Wind & Fire specifically talked about and sang about positive, upbeat topics. A lot of the ideas that I have in my head are from Maurice White, Philip Bailey, and the rest of the clan in Earth, Wind & Fire. But in addition to Earth, Wind & Fire, I had a fondness for Motown and rhythm and blues. And not so much heavy metal, not so much, classic rock. I grew up, Bob Seger grew up in my hometown, or not very close to me. I dated a girl who Bob Seger played at her prom. But one thing that I always had trouble listening to was country music until I moved to Texas. In fact, when I first moved to Texas, it was hard for me to listen to country because I just did not hear the lyrics. It didn't make sense to me. But the more I've listened to country, I have a different appreciation for it. And there's a lot of country that I find quite invigorating. But when I'm in the car, I frequently don't even listen to the radio because I enjoy the silence. Because for the most part, I don't like the commercials that they interject in between the songs. And also, I hear the lyrics of the songs, and they're not empowering. They're very codependent. They talk about things that I don't want to perpetuate in my experience. So this is where you need to make an assessment of, does the music empower you? Does it perpetuate thinking that is not necessarily, aligned with your highest good? And this is where you go back to GEGO, garbage in, garbage out. So for me, there are some genres that naturally lead me towards an elevated state. Smooth jazz is one of those. There's also meditation music that's composed at a particular frequency, a primary frequency, 528 hertz, 440 hertz. And you can search YouTube to find some of that meditation music that suits you. Not just because it says relaxation, just because it says that it's going to produce a particular internal state. Just go by your own assessment, your own internal response. How does it make you feel? And that's with any genre of music. Does it elevate your state? Does it invigorate you? That's what's most important. So one of the ways that you can utilize music to raise your vibration, so generate or create a playlist with your favorite music. So you program the music that you want to work by, live by. I have music playlists for working out, for studying, for investigating, for relaxing. I have created a playlist for virtually every experience of life. I even have created a soundtrack for different responses, different visualizations that I have. Found the music that goes with it. And just listening to that music creates or is associated with a particular mental process. All right, I can't remember what number we're on. I think it's number 7. And so we'll talk about vocabulary, language, your word choice. Now, if you've listened to me for any length of time, I don't typically use verbiage of a lower vibrational nature. If something is terrible, traumatic, horrible, I usually say less than stellar, less than amazing. And I rarely use the H word or the word hate. I don't like the vibration of that word. I don't use it. I don't talk about, I usually say I dislike that, or I furiously dislike that, or I do not prefer that any way, shape, or form. So I don't use that word because of the energetic connection with it or the energetic response it creates inside my body. But it amazes me sometimes when I ask people, how are you doing? And they'll say something like, I'm devastated. It's horrible. It's so traumatic. I don't know if I can go on. And I'll ask, oh my gosh, what happened? Well, I lost my phone. I can't find my phone. I'm devastated. Really? Really? That is going to devastate your life? And sometimes when people talk about their relationship ending, oh, if I lose her, if I lose him, I'll be devastated. They're pre-planning how they're going to feel. I would definitely be disappointed. But devastated, your life is on the rocks. You're going to give them that much power. See, you want to be the master of your mind. You don't want to be a slave to the processes of your thinking, because your thinking, for the most part, is a regurgitation of your past programming. And so you get to choose your thoughts. And so what might be a word that you can replace devastated with? How about irritated? It was unsettling. It was less than amazing. And I can hear some of you actually saying, well, that's not a true description of what I'm actually feeling. Well, understand that your description of what you're actually feeling is merely a description. It's not the truth. And how you describe it, how you talk about it, is going to perpetuate that feeling. And so if you can minimize it, if you can acknowledge it, I'm really peeved, or I'm really irritated, or I'm disappointed in this. And then you can start talking about how it doesn't really that affect you long term. Why cry over spilt milk? It's spilt. I lost my iPhone. I'll get a replacement. I have it backed up. It's inconvenient. But devastated? No, I'm not going to give that much power to a circumstance. And this is where you never want to surrender leadership of your mind to outside circumstance. You always want to be response-abled. You want to take the freedom of choosing your response. Now, I guess I should say, in as far as word choice goes, swearing and cussing has its place, but if it's part of your normal everyday verbiage, you may want to rethink of it, because what you're doing is actually expressing a frustration in a less than amazing way. My father taught me this aphorism when I was younger, when I had a slip of the tongue. I think I said, damn it, or something like that. But he said, profanity is the feeble efforts of a frustrated mind to express itself forcibly. Now, in my younger mind, I would flip that and say, profanity is the frustrated efforts of a feeble mind to express itself forcibly. I think it works both ways. But if you just consider that if you use, I guess, cuss words on a regular basis, profanity on a regular basis, I couldn't even think of what that was called, profanity. If you use it on a regular basis to express yourself, in my estimation, you just don't know enough words yet. There are other words that are more magnificent, more eloquent, more descriptive. Because frankly, if you use the F word in 6 different expressions, which you can, there's like 9 or 10 ways you can say the F word to express a particular emotion. But if that's your go-to word, then you just don't know enough ways to express yourself. And I think it's incumbent upon you to learn more about the language that you speak. And of course, every now and then, it's useful to use a profane word, a cuss word, because it drives the point home. But when you use it all the time, it doesn't really have, the same impact that you think it does. And for the people listening, it becomes somewhat annoying. It really does. Okay, number 8. And number 8's your environment. What do you surround yourself with? How clean is your office? How clean is your bedroom? Do you make your bed? How clean is your bathroom? Does your environment support you, or does it detract your energy? Does it expand energy, or does it contract energy? Again, where are you sitting on the fence? Now, in my house, in my environment, I've created little sanctuaries, little safe places. I have a meditation spot, I have a little altar, and on the altar are things that, just little knickknacks that I guess elevate my vibration. They make me feel good to see them. I have some artifacts, some Egyptian artifacts, some spiritual iconography. Just looking at it elevates my thinking. And that's a created space. Now, your space is a reflection of your thinking. It's a reflection of how you want to be in the world. And you don't necessarily have to invest thousands of dollars in remaking your environment. Sometimes it's just a matter of cleaning it, organizing it. Other things that I have in my environment that elevate my thinking, I have paintings, I have photography, I have books, I have things that appease my senses. And if you want to think about your environment, it is all sensory based. What kind of blankets do you have? What kind of pillows do you have? Does it feel good? And we can also include clothes in this, because clothes are an extension of how you feel. I mean, I've bought stuff at a thrift store that have been, almost like new, and it's pretty good. I don't mind shopping at a thrift store. My dad taught me that one man's junk is another man's treasure. And so I like saving money. I don't have to save money, but I like saving money. So every now and then, especially when Skylar is our artistic son, he likes to go to Goodwill. He likes to go to these thrift stores and just see things. And so while we're there, every now and then, we'll discover a rare gem. In an earlier episode, I talked about how I would buy flowers, fresh flowers, and replace them every week. You can have plants, living plants. And don't say that you don't have a green thumb. You just haven't yet learned how to take care of your plants. There's lots of YouTube videos about that. You just need to make the commitment. I'm going to learn how to take care of this plant. And you get a plant that's fairly resilient, doesn't require a lot of special care. And you can find those, a whole list of those on the internet. You can place a lot of greenery around you. Bring the outside in. How much light do you have available? What is your lighting situation? Just by changing your light bulbs, you can change how you feel. Put a 3-way light in to where you can change the intensity. My wife teaches a whole course on this called Sacred Home Alchemy. And I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to check that out. She's about to start up her own program on Sacred Home Alchemy. It's I don't know how many months involved, but she'll give you the instruction to energetically transform your place. One of the things that I've done is she identified an underground river. There's lots of underground rivers here. We're in a low spot, and there's a floodplain, but it's kind of designed to where all the water flows downhill. But I guess there's some underground rivers, and we've identified those with divining rods. Well, there was one running right through our house, and it stood to reason that the animals would congregate there because they, especially cats, they neutralize negative energy. And so what I did, based on my wife's instruction, I buried a copper rod about 2 feet down where that runs through our house, and it interrupted the flow. And I also placed a rock with the intention of also redirecting that energy. What else can you do to clean up your environment? If there's anything in your environment that you do not like, think about getting rid of it. If someone gave you a painting, if someone gave you a piece of furniture. So when I was in my early 30s, I ended up taking a look at all my furnishings, and a lot of it I picked up secondhand. When you're young, pick stuff up secondhand. People gift you stuff. And I inherited a lot of things that weren't really mine, didn't really go together. And some of it, it didn't really sit with me well. So in my early 30s, I actually purged just about everything that I owned. I gave it away. I actually brought people in. Take a look at anything in my house. If you want it, tell me you want it, and I'll tell you if I want to give it up. I had my friends, my brothers and my sisters come in, and all these things, I found their happy home with them. I still go to my brothers and my sisters and I see things that I had when I was in my 20s in their space, and they love it. It works for them, but it didn't work for me any longer. And so take an assessment of what do you want to release, what do you want to get rid of. And if you really want to dive deep into creating a sacred space, I suggest you check out my wife's In fact, I'll put a link to a guide, Sacred Home Alchemy guide that she put together, and it will lead you through a whole series of things you can do environmentally in your abode, in your surroundings. I think we're now at 9. So number 9 is move your butt. Move your body. You are a psychic soma being, meaning that how you use your mind, psychic, and how you use your body, soma, is interconnected. How you use the mind affects the body. How you use the body affects the mind. So Benjamin Franklin would make a concerted effort each and every day to go for a walk. He called it his daily constitutional, part of the constitution of who he was. Now, a lot of people, when they talk about I'm taking my daily constitutional, it's taking a crap. But that's not the original intention. Franklin used it as his daily walk. And he would, on his walk, he would walk through town, he would talk to different people, have different conversations, and it would invigorate his spirit. That goes back to your company, the relationships that you have. And he would end up at the tavern, and he would be in deep conversation about politics and world affairs and different things. But he would make it a point each and every day to go for a walk because it changed how he felt. Now, if you include a walk in your daily practice or anything aerobic that moves the body, you want to make sure that you move your body for more than 7 minutes. 7 minutes seems to be the magic number. If you can move it more than 7 minutes, then things start to shift. In the first 7 minutes, you tend to burn more glucose, more ATP, which is the simplest sugars which fuel the cells. And how you process oxygen is also different in that first 7 minutes. After about 7 minutes, the training effect goes in. And basically your body says, your mind says, this fool is not going to stop. He's going to continue, so we need to start changing the resources, changing the environment in order to support this action, which usually means a little dumping of endorphins, biochemical neuropeptides that change and elevate your mood. Now, the reason that I talk about walking is just about every person can participate in a walk. Go to the mall. I mean, if it's not conducive outside, if it's too hot, too cold, too rainy, go to a mall, go to a gym, go somewhere that's large enough for you to walk around. I've been in hotels where there's been no place to really work out. And so I hit the stairs, I run the stairs, I walk up the stairs for my workout. When I'm at home, we have a 2-story house, and so I'll bound up the stairs. I just don't take them easily. I'll bound up them, taking 2 or 3 steps at a time, and when I come down the stairs, I'll hit every step. And occasionally, I'll get down to the bottom, I'll turn around and bound up the top, and hit every step on the way down, turn around and run to the top, and take every step down. And so I just find little ways to add more movement to my day. I go to park in the grocery store. I'll park further out in the lot so I have a walk. I usually park near a cart corral so I can just drop the cart off while I'm there. But as I'm parking out there, I reinforce the idea, again, my thinking, that I'm supporting my health and fitness. I'm improving my day by moving more. Now, if you do any research at all, you can see that there's lots of different exercises that you can engage in, lots of different practices. So what's most important about this in raising your vibration is to engage in an activity which you find enjoyable, or to master your mind, to think about it in a way that supports you. Talk about it in a way that is part of your lifestyle. One of the things I tell myself when I go to the gym, I have the privilege of working out. I have all my toes, both feet, my hands. I have the ability to work out unencumbered. I have a friend who has spent almost his entire life in a wheelchair. He had a congenital birth defect and he basically has no legs. And so there is an experience of life he just does not have access to. And so I'm pulling in gratitude on how grateful I am that I actually have the privilege to work out. This becomes a joy. To move my body and sweat. I have a relative degree of health, and so I enjoy that. I enjoy perpetuating that. And I say to myself, I'm growing younger. I'm reversing the aging effects as I work out. And so what I'm doing is framing this experience, which is for some people less than amazing, a struggle, and I frame it in a way where it supports me and my movement in it is aligned with how I want to be in the world. And so, behold the power of your mind. You can reframe anything to where it supports you, because your ultimate freedom is you get to choose your response. Number 10, I think we're on 10. Number 10 is aligning your behavior with your guiding principles. Identify your values, clarify your values, make them distinct in your experience by writing a definition for each value, and then making sure that your behavior is aligned with what matters most to you. See, when your behavior is aligned with your guiding principles, your highest priorities of life, you have a sense of self-esteem that goes through the roof. It's incredible. And so honoring your guiding principles, honoring your values, respecting your values, respecting yourself as if your values are important, like a credo or a constitutional statement by which you live your life by. And when you look in the mirror, you know that you have made a stand in the world. This is what you stand for. And your behavior reflects that. It raises your vibration. Now, I'm going to make this 11, and it's part of living your values. It's congruence. When you say one thing and do another, it is incongruent. And that incongruence is like, it's an irritation inside. It's like a cancer because it doesn't have a reference to the whole. We think we can compartmentalize our behavior. Oh, it's just me, or it's just this once. But if it's not in alignment with what you value most, it creates cognitive dissonance inside. It creates an interruption to the force, an interruption to the flow. You know that you're lying to yourself. And that incongruence is that your behavior does not add up to who you say you are or who you think you are. And a lot of times, if your higher self holds an image for you and you show up differently than the image that your higher self or God, Goddess, all that is, has for you, how you feel is less than amazing. That's an indicator that you're off course, that your thinking, your actions are not in alignment with your higher good or your higher vibrational state. Now we come to number 12, which is integrity. And when I talk about integrity, I'm not saying it in a moral sense. I'm thinking about it in an integral sense, maintaining wholeness and completeness. Integrity means that when you state a promise, you keep the promise. It means you show up when you say you're going to show up. If the party starts at 7 o'clock, you show up at 7 o'clock or just before. If you're going to a workshop, it starts at 8. You show up at 8. You show up just before. So you're not a distraction. It maintains the integrity of your promise. So it's doing what you said you would do in the way you said you would do it. There are spoken and unspoken agreements. And sometimes people think they're getting away with something if they compromise an unspoken agreement. They say, well, we never really talked about it, or it was never stated specifically. But in their mind, they know that they're breaking a promise. They don't want to get caught. They might be hiding the fact, or they might make sure that it's not brought out in the public because they're somewhat ashamed of it. So that's an indicator that you're, I guess, not in alignment with your integrity. There's a certain amount of embarrassment that's there if it was to come out. I like to say, don't do anything that you wouldn't want put on the front page of the newspaper. Not that there's newspapers anymore. I think there's a few out there. But let's say you don't want to do anything that would not be posted across the internet, that you wouldn't be proud to have posted around the internet, or maybe you wouldn't be proud, but you wouldn't be embarrassed by it. It wouldn't bother you. When you live in a way that maintains the integrity of who you are, it means that you can look in the mirror and you know that you tell the truth, that you've taken a stand. A lot of people look in the mirror and they silently, underneath their breath, know themselves to be a liar. Even if it means you say you're going to get up tomorrow at 6 a.m. and you sleep until 6:15 or 6:30. And part of you knows you made the agreement with yourself to get up at 6. Yet you know in the future that if you say that you're going to get up at 6 and go work out, or get up at 6 and write in a journal, that you probably won't do it because you don't keep your promises. You don't keep your word to yourself because, it's just you. So the first place to practice integrity is with yourself. Keep your promises to yourself, or don't even promise anything you're not intending to keep. That's even more important. Don't make a commitment to someone you're not willing to move heaven and earth to keep, especially yourself. Okay, you're doing really good. We're at the end of part 2, episode 2, and we're going to pick up in episode 3 on number 13, which is an auspicious number. And so until next time, this is your friend and host, Daniel Danovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals. Be inner directed as you engage in the epic adventure